Hello, everybody, and welcome to From the Mezzanine, the Broadway podcast for the Broadway fans. Here we talk about all things Broadway news, Broadway grosses, and let's be honest, all of the tea and gossip that happens week to week in the Broadway stratosphere. And I am your host, Lindsay Stone. Thank you so much for watching, listening. We are now on Spotify, and you can watch the app. I don't know why I only thought celebrities could do that. Like, I never thought maybe I should put the video I record every single week onto Spotify. I never thought about that. I don't know why. I just thought, oh, you have to like be a Spotify podcast. You have to be a celebrity in order to do that. But no, you can watch me on Spotify now. But I know most of my listeners, y'all are coming on and listening from Apple Podcasts, and that is awesome. Also, a good handful of you guys have gotten used to watching this on YouTube. That is also awesome. Speaking of YouTube, do y'all mind if I do a little plug at the top of the app? I have been working my little took us off on my YouTube channel. And I am going to be continuing to put in a lot of effort to my YouTube channel because TikTok might get banned. And I need another place that I can put a lot of content. And video content is my preferred way of doing that. And I love Instagram. Instagram is fantastic. But do y'all ever feel like you are on like a roller coaster of emotions with certain like social media apps? Like, I love TikTok, but sometimes I will not log on for days and I'll only post on Instagram. Like, I'm not a very good content creator in those means. It's like, you kind of need to follow me everywhere to make sure you get all the content, because I like hyper focus on Instagram, then I'll hyper focus on TikTok. And right now my hyper focus is YouTube. That being said, this past week, I released a new episode and it was how much money I spent on Broadway last year. And let me tell you, it was over $1,000. It was over $2,000. It was a lot of money, but you're going to have to head over to that video on YouTube. I think it's literally called How Much I Spent on Broadway in 2024, and watch it for yourself to figure out exactly how much I spent. And I wasn't super disappointed in my final number. I was kind of like, meh, yeah, that's actually not that bad. I'll give you all a hint. And I like this statistic because I'm proud of it. I rushed or did lottery for 40 shows. I was invited as a member of the press to 15 shows. And then for the remaining 3 shows, I paid full price for only 3 shows this year. Therefore, I got a lot of bang for my buck. And my final number is pretty dang good for 58 shows last year. By the way, I know like it is so classic me. I can't ever get it right. But on my episode where I did my Broadway rankings of 2024, I said I saw 57 shows. I saw 58. I don't know where, like, I don't know what was missing for me to think I saw 57. I genuinely don't know. Anyways, yeah, I saw 58 shows. So check it out on my YouTube at From the Mezzanine Podcast on YouTube. And I'm like filming a Broadway vlog this weekend. A lot of stuff is coming on to my YouTube channel. I'm really making an effort over there because it's so fun. Editing videos takes a lifetime. It takes forever, but I'm really trying to make the content great and engaging and entertaining. And another great place that you can find extra content is on the Patreon channel. I'm just going to do all my plugs at the top of the app. How's that? So my Patreon channel, we do my main pull for the Patreon is if you're wanting to support From the Mezzanine in a bigger way financially. It's $5.99 a month for Patreon, which is pretty low. I think it's on the average people pay for Patreon, I want to say is $7.99. So $5.99, it's a steal. And I do a Meet Me at the Stage Door episode. You can really count on getting like 4 extra episodes or videos, some form of video content or podcast content. You can count on getting at least 5 of those a month over there on the Patreon. But the main pull to the Patreon is if you're like, Lindsay, I want to see you shine. I want to see this pod be bigger and be better, because that's really what the patrons do. They support me in ways that really make a difference from the Mezzanine. So if you feel led and interested to do that, I feel like a cult leader, but at least you get some bang for your buck over there with extra content and things. And I'm like always on Patreon. I'm a resource. I try to respond to my Broadway besties over there as much as I can. So it's a great way to support the pod and support yours truly, because I appreciate it so much. I have to address the elephant in the room. If you are watching this episode, you may have seen this gorgeous little number I have on right now. Broadway bestie Bryn got it for me for Christmas, and she's such a queen and an icon living, and I love my sweatshirt. I got her an iconic sweatshirt, the Professional Yapper one, and so it was only right that she got me an equally incredible sweatshirt, and it's Fiyero in his many faces, and Bryn is, of course, the best for getting me this Fiyero shirt. I love it so much. But yeah, I haven't seen any shows since we talked last week. I'm seeing Drag the Musical tomorrow is the plan. We're going to rush it. And I have my tickets to see Redwood in February. And I'm trying to give y'all an update. What else do I have secured? I'll be seeing English soon, potentially at the end of this month. So that's exciting. My priorities right now are Romeo and Juliet, because I haven't seen it yet. And when I say, like, to me, I'm kind of like, ugh, I have to see that show. I have to see it because it's Bryn's favorite, and it has Kit Connor, and it has Rachel Zegler, but I'm like, it's Shakespeare. So motivate me in the comments. Tell me if I need to see it. I know I need to see it. So anyways, that's a priority for me right now. And so is Death Becomes Her. I need to report back to you guys and let y'all know what I think about Death Becomes Her. So those two are probably going to somehow fit their way in to this month. And I'll make my way out there to go and see it, because Romeo and Juliet closes in February already. It feels like it hasn't been running any time at all. But those are the priorities right now. And I think without further ado, let's get into the episode and let's talk Broadway grosses. So last week we had an iconic week of Broadway grosses. So many tourists in town for the holiday. This week we're definitely going to see a dip, but it's still holiday season here. All the markets are still running. The Rockefeller Tree is still up. There's still plenty of tourists, but let me say it is a lot nicer. There's a lot less, but I do think we're still going to see some major spikes in the Broadway grosses this week, and it is for the week ending on January 5th. So at the top is still Wicked. They grossed $3.2 million last week, which is an insane number. But last week, if you'll remember, they grossed over $5 million, breaking the record for the highest box office sales in 1 week. Yes. But this week, that just goes to show you they did one extra performance last week and how much people were paying for a ticket, because they still had 100% capacity, and now it's 3.2 million instead of 5. Wild. The Lion King grossed 2.8 million. Hamilton grossed 2.3 million. Aladdin grossed 1.9. Okay, those are our 4 biggest tourist shows up at the top. The Outsiders is 5th, and they grossed 1.8 million. That's so amazing. And The Great Gatsby grossed the same, 1.8 million. They're neck and neck. It was Back to the Future's last week on Broadway, and they came out so strong. They ranked number 7 for their last week. That's amazing. I'm excited to see what stuff's ranked, since it was their last week as well. And hopefully they had a big spike in their grosses. But at 7th, Back to the Future with 1.8 million as well. So a lot of these shows are grossing the exact same amount practically. Right below Back to the Future, we have Harry Potter and the Cursed Child at 9. And then to round out the top 10, we have MJ at also 1.8 million. Practically all these shows were at 100% capacity. MJ is the lowest at 93% capacity. Right below MJ is Gypsy, and then Sunset Boulevard, and then All In, a Comedy About Love. So that's interesting. I haven't really been tracking All In, a Comedy About Love's grosses week to week, but at 1.5 million, that is huge. We had a character swap out. Chloe Fineman is in now instead of Renee Elise Goldsberry. That probably has something to do about it, because I imagine she has quite a following. But you know, guys, I am surprised that Moulin Rouge didn't act more like a touristy show for those busy weeks. The fact that they did great. They had 99% capacity. They grossed, of course, over $1 million. But I just feel like, I know it's not, but I feel like Moulin Rouge has the same like pop culture relevance as The Great Gatsby, but The Great Gatsby has its book, and that's going to bring a lot of people in, and it's so familiar. So yeah, maybe there's like a difference between the two, but they do seem like somewhat similar to me. I just would think Moulin Rouge would have performed better. Not that they performed poorly at all. I also would have thought Gypsy would have performed better. Yeah, that's genuinely kind of surprising to me. Suffs had a great week. They closed it out at 101% capacity with $1.3 million in grosses. Honestly, I wish that they would have extended their run. I don't think that they could have. I'm sure somebody's coming right into that theater. It's the Music Box Theater. I remember talking about something coming in. Was it Boop? I feel like it might have been Boop that was going to head on into the Music Box. I'm not certain though. But interesting to note, like Romeo and Juliet is one of the ones that I keep being like, where are you? Why aren't you in the top 10? It's grossing a ton, 103% capacity. Let's see, did it get a higher capacity than The Outsiders? Yeah, it did. That's awesome. It's such a small theater. Like most of these theaters have double what the capacity of Romeo and Juliet is. So that makes a huge difference. But let's look at what's at the very bottom. We just need to know. So in terms of musicals, the lowest grossing musical is A Wonderful World. And they're at 65% capacity. They're going to close ASAP. And then right above that is Maybe Happy Ending. But they did have a pretty good week. They grossed just under 1 million. And their capacity was at 98%. I feel like y'all can definitely tell that I'm biased. Because I would see another show here and I'd be like, go get your Maybe Happy Ending tickets. But like, I'm not saying that on my podcast. No. Yeah, Chicago had 85% capacity. That is so bad. Let's rank these on capacity and see how much it changes. Also, I will say, I thought Elf should have extended their run, but like well into January and maybe even into February. But last week, they had 81% capacity. It's truly like, okay, Christmas time is over. Like, bye-bye, Elf. Like, you're over. You're done. Okay, the lowest capacity, and I am going to talk plays just because I'm curious, the lowest capacity right now, and this is wildly low, is Left on 10th at 47% capacity. And then we have A Wonderful World there at 65% capacity. And then we have Elf. See, that is what the difference literally a day makes. Like, nobody's going to see it now when it was just grossing an insane amount. And then we have Cult of Love at 84% capacity. And then everything else just kind of like trickles in after that. But our highest capacity, yep, it's Romeo and Juliet and then The Outsiders. But that also has to do with like how much standing room they actually have available to cross past that 100% capacity barrier. But yeah, that is our week in Broadway grosses. Heading on into our Broadway news for this week, we finally got confirmation. A confirmation none of us needed, but we're all very happy to have. And I am ready to talk about it because I wanted to yap about it when it was in the tea phase and when everybody was gossiping rumors left and right. And what I'm referring to, you guys, is that Sutton Foster and Hugh Jackman have officially stepped out together, hand in hand, beaming. Their smiles are taking up all of their face. The sun is just cascading upon them, and they just look so happy, and they're glowing, and they look in love and love and love. And I absolutely ship. There are some dark sides of this relationship, as every news story has. It has its good and it has its bad, and where these two look so happy, and I'm so happy for them. And it was a few weeks ago when we heard like that they're in a relationship, but they're keeping things under wraps, but everybody knows it, and that they're so happy together, and that like everybody in the music band knew that they had chemistry and knew that they were seeing each other, but nobody said anything because these two were too nice, and like nobody wanted to cross them, I guess, just because everybody adored them. And I think that that's silly, and I think that that's funny because it feels like they're gaslighting us into being like, oh, everybody knows about Sutton and Hugh. If you don't know, then like you're out of the loop, and everybody just loves this couple because they're so nice. I feel like it was such like a very carefully painted portrait of these two saying we all knew and nobody said anything because they're so nice. Like that feels gaslighty to me. I'm not saying it's untrue. I'm sure these two are lovely. I'm sure they're so nice, but it just was a funny approach to me. But what we got earlier this week is Sutton opened Once Upon a Mattress over in, where is it? Is it in LA? I don't think it is. Hold on. Let me fact check. Okay, yeah, it is in LA. It is at the Center Theater Group, Well, I hope the theater is okay. That's really crazy. I didn't realize it was like properly in LA. Um, I'm sure, I mean, I'd be remiss not to even mention all of the LA fires. And if I have any listeners over there in LA, like, I hope you're okay. And seriously, we're all just like watching the news trickle in, and it's heartbreaking. The fires and the houses lost, and it's wild that that's happening on the other side of our country. It's really, really sad. And it's actually canceled a lot of things that people have had planned over here on the West Coast. Like Jeremy Jordan had, I think he was going to be out of The Great Gatsby for 3 days, and he posted it literally the day before. He was like, hey guys, just letting you know, since it's my last month, that I'm going to be out of The Great Gatsby for these 3 days. I'm performing in LA. And then he circled back the next day and he was like, oh, by the way, like, I'm not going anymore. I'll be your Gatsby. Da, 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 da. What else got canceled? Quite a few things were canceled due to just the devastation in LA. So sending love and support to any LA listeners. And I'm here for you if there's anything that I can do if you want to talk. But it's really sad. But to bring it back to the news story at hand. So Sutton and Hugh, they stepped out in California while they were heading on to dinner. They looked so nice and definitely dressed up. And this was certainly like a press moment. They called the press to come. They did like a People magazine exclusive just to make it official. And maybe they were tired of living in the shadows and not stepping out together. But the dark side, like I previously mentioned about these two, is that there might have been some shadiness in this relationship. There might have been some crossover potentially. So they were both in other relationships, long-term marriages. Sutton was married to her husband for 10 years. Hugh Jackman was married to his wife for, I think, 27 years. And they both seemed to be happy. And then they did The Music Man. And I believe, I think it was right after The Music Man in October 2023. Or no, just in 2023, Hugh Jackman and his wife separated. And then most recently, this past October, Sutton Foster filed for divorce from her husband. And that's kind of when the rumors broke free and people started hearing that this was why. And so everybody's just wondering if, I mean, you never know. But I like to think that they fell in love and maybe they were in relationships, but that couldn't hold back their love. And it's tea. It's definitely tea, but I'm happy for these two. I think they're such a cute couple. I think Hugh Jackman, he is so A-list celebrity. Sutton Foster is definitely not. She is a Broadway girly through and through, but I think most people wouldn't really know her name. She's done plenty of TV with her show Younger, but I don't think I know for a fact she's not a household name like Hugh Jackman. And so this is great for her career. And I love the fact that he's this huge celebrity, but he's in love with this Broadway star. I just think it's precious. And they've always been really friendly and spoken so highly of each other. And it was clear that they just had the best time together in Music Man. But I don't know, like, is there a world in which when The Greatest Showman comes to Broadway, they're going to be the couple in it? That would be crazy. No, that won't happen. No. But maybe Hugh Jackman would be in it, but I don't see Sutton Foster doing that. But that would honestly be great marketing, but I don't think it's going to happen. Anyways, that is one of the biggest news stories of the week. The other big news story, which is such a disappointment if I'm being honest. The Golden Globes were last weekend, and I was so excited for Ariana and Cynthia. Ariana was nominated in the featured actress category. Cynthia was nominated in the leading actress category. And of course, I knew, no question, Wicked is going to take home the best musical / comedy award. There's literally no question about it. Well, none of the previously mentioned nominations were won by Wicked, which is truly such a disservice. I have not seen the other movies. I have attempted to watch Amelia Perez. It does not look like a movie that I would be interested in. There's a sound right now that is going around on TikTok. Hello, very nice to meet you. I'd like to know about sex change operation. I see. And at first, whenever I heard that, I was like, this monotone weird color grading musical, and everybody's saying it sounds like it was written by AI, and I agree with that. But I feel like that could be because it's primarily in Spanish. I started watching it and so far it's all in Spanish, so I don't know when they translate or transition to like doing like speaking in English, or maybe it's just in that scene because she's like at a hospital with like an English speaker. I'm not sure. Anyways, I'm going to watch it. I cannot promise that I will watch all of Amelia Perez, but Zoe Saldana beat out Ariana Grande for the featured actress category. I'm not mad for Zoe Saldana. I'm sure she's amazing in the movie, but Ariana was so great. Demi Moore beat out Cynthia for leading actress for her movie, what is it called? The Substance. So literally no hate, no shade, but these girlies, they should have won. Cynthia, Ariana, like I couldn't even pick a favorite. I think they both should have won in their categories. But where I really am just like, this is freaking ridiculous, is that Wicked didn't win Best Musical. There's no way. Wicked is literally the best musical that has ever been made. Like statistically and in everybody's opinion, it is the best musical. I promise you. I'm sorry, no hate, no shade, but I promise we will not be talking about Amelia Perez in 10 years. I don't see a world in which that is happening. But you know what? People are going to be singing for 100, 200, 500, 1,000 years. Defying gravity. There's just no doubt. There's no world in which Amelia Perez is a better musical than Wicked. There's no chance. I'm getting so worked up, and it's just impossible. Wicked did win one Golden Globe, and it is the one that, of course, they had to win. And honestly, I feel like it was only created this category that they won. It is Box Office Achievement. Cinematic and Box Office Achievement Award. You want to know who else was in the category? Inside Out, Gladiator, Beetlejuice, and Wicked. None of those even hold a candle to Wicked. And this category was created at the Golden Globes last year whenever the Barbenheimer thing happened. And so now, they obviously needed to give Barbie something, so they gave them that award. They obviously needed to give Wicked something. They needed the press. They needed the moment of Ariana and Cynthia standing on a stage. They need that for their views and their rankings and to satiate all of us, the crazy loony fans that are not going to be okay if Wicked walks home empty-handed. And so that's why they have that stupid category. It's not even a real award. It is. It is a real award. At least it's something, but nothing else could compare. I don't know if Wicked, I wonder, let's look up, is Wicked grossing over Barbie? I'm curious. More than likely, Wicked will earn a total of $700 to $800 million throughout its theatrical run. Wait. Oh, so about half of what Barbie made. Really? Oh, but it confirms with the part 2, then it might surpass. I don't think that really counts. Another thing I want to chat about, because I just hear it all the time, so many people are so upset about the fact that we're not getting Wicked part 2 for another year, which, by the way, I haven't also, okay, one thing at a time. First thing. A lot of people are complaining about the fact that Wicked Part 2 is coming in a year. To me, I'm like, oh, that's great. I know what happens. I'm not sitting here looking up what happens at the end and looking up spoilers and things. And I like the fact that we have this whole entire year to just marinate and dive into Wicked Part 1 and take our time with it and hold it dear. And then whenever we're ready and we can see ourselves moving on, we can then see Wicked Part 2. And I was talking about this today. I was like, I think Wicked Part 2 potentially is going to even be better than Wicked Part 1 because so much wild stuff happens, and that is when the conflict really changes. And in Wicked Part 1, for so much of it, it's very happy-go-lucky. We're learning, we're living, we're loving life, and we're going to the Emerald City. And then Wicked Part 2, shit hits the fan. And honestly, who doesn't like watching that in a movie? So I think Wicked Part 2 is going to surpass Wicked 1 for me, honestly. And it has so many of my favorite songs, not even to mention For Good, but we have No Good Deed, As Long As You're Mine. Those two songs alone are my favorite Wicked songs. Dancing Through Life is my favorite. Or As Long As You're Mine. Oh, it's those three. It's those three for me. They are my favorite Wicked songs, hands down. Also, The Wizard and I. Yeah, no, never mind. Not picking a favorite, not doing that to myself, and definitely not writing that in stone here on the podcast. They're also good, but I do think I'm going to like Wicked Part 2 better. But also what I was talking about this morning was Wicked Part 1 has obviously been such a phenomenon and everybody's obsessed. If Wicked Part 2 comes out and everybody hates it and I don't share that opinion, which I'm sure that I won't, I know I'm going to love it, that's going to be hard for me. Like I try to picture a world in which this phenomenon of everybody talking and Live, Laugh, Loving Wicked, if it was this much attention, but everybody hated it and all bad attention, that would kill me. Because then I would feel like I'd constantly be having to explain myself and be like, Wicked's my favorite musical. And people would like act like I said Cats was my favorite musical, you know, like, what? And I'd be like, oh, like that would suck. But what we didn't talk about on the podcast is the fact that Wicked Part 2, they're calling it Wicked for Good. Which is weird to me because like Wicked Part 1 didn't have like a modifier. They didn't have another name. It's just Wicked Part 1. And now it's Wicked for Good. I don't like it. I wish that they would have just kept it Wicked Part 2. I don't think we need like the for good on it. I think it's smart because it's going to identify it. I was thinking about the people who like don't know what songs are in Part 1 versus Part 2 because Defying Gravity is the most popular song in Wicked, but For Good is a very close runner-up, I'd say. And so I think the fact that they added that modifier is wise for people to like buy another ticket and come and finish the show and see the second act because they're going to be like, oh yeah, it has one of my favorite songs ever, For Good, in it. And so that's like a little bit of a reminder of, hey, For Good is in this half, so you need to come and see it. Just thinking from a marketing perspective, as I oftentimes do. So yeah, even though I'm not necessarily super lit about adding For Good, it's all right. It's fine. And I guess they didn't really call it Wicked Part 1. The first half is just called Wicked. And because they really don't call it, I don't know, correct me in the comments if I'm wrong, but I'm pretty sure they really just call it Wicked. And all of us just call it Wicked Part 1 and Part 2. IDK. Okay, last news story of the week, you guys. This is interesting, and I'm excited to chat about it. There is a new, I don't know if I can call it a musical, I don't know if I can call it a workshop, but something of that sort called the Jonathan Larson Project. So I'm going to read to y'all what it says on the Playbill article of what this is. Quote, the Jonathan Larson Project contains songs from unproduced Larson shows, including 1998 and Superbia, as well as songs that were cut from Rent and Tick, Tick, Boom, songs written for the theatrical reviews and for the radio, and a variety of songs never publicly performed or recorded before the Jonathan Larson Project. So I wonder if it's going to tell a story or if it is more of like a review where these actors are just singing these songs. They are calling it a show. It's going to be on February 14th, and it's going to be at the Orpheum Theater. I'm super interested in this because I love Jonathan Larson. I will consume every piece of content from him, from his life, from his musicals that I can get my hands on. If you're unfamiliar with Jonathan Larson, he is the genius behind, I promise, some of your favorite musicals, Rent and Tick, Tick, Boom. And he had a more than tragic passing when he passed away the night before Rent's dress rehearsal for Broadway. So he never got to attend opening night for his production of Rent, and he died when he was far too young and far too talented. And it's a very tragic story, and I just always think, it's always on my mind, like, what would we have today if he didn't pass? So I think with that in mind, that makes things like this so awesome because we get to see what else he was working on. And especially this, that it's unproduced, unheard songs. And some of his songs are wild. I mean, we've all heard from Tick, Tick, Boom, like, it was my fault to say you were wrong, to say you were wrong. The therapy song. And then, of course, from Rent, Maureen's big song about the cow jumped over the moon. Like, he was such a genius, yes, but his creativity was through the roof, and he saw things in a way that I don't think any musical theater writer probably ever has. And some of his songs are the best songs. Take Me or Leave Me, Seasons of Love. He has some of the best music ever. And I'm ready for this. I'm ready. I can't wait. So the creator of the Jonathan Larson Project is a woman by the name of Jennifer Ashley Tepper. She was also the producer of Be More Chill. So she's been in the musical theater scene for a very long time. And this is her project. She says, quote, Jonathan's lost songs are political, personal, surprising, galvanizing, relevant, and tell a fascinating news story about a young man following his heart in New York City. Classic Jonathan Larson, trying to change the world. I felt strongly that there was a show to be made from Jonathan's work that had never been heard. I'm so thrilled that after many years, the Jonathan Larson Project is finally making its full-scale debut as a stage musical. Okay, that tells us it is going to be a full stage debut as a stage musical. In the cast, we have Adam Chandler Barat, who was in Next to Normal and Pete and the Starcatcher and Amelie on Broadway. We have Taylor Iman Jones, who I recently saw in Empire Records, but she was also Catherine Parr in Six, so I know you guys know her, this queen. We have Lauren Marcus, who is in Be More Chill. A lot of these people were in Be More Chill, of course, because its creator was the producer of Be More Chill. But yeah, Lauren Marcus was in Be More Chill. Andy Meintis was in the Spring Awakening revival and Les Mis on Broadway. And Jason Tam was in Be More Chill, If Then, a Chorus Line revival. He's been in quite a lot. So this is a qualified cast. Anything Jonathan Larson, I'm eating up. They said about this cast that they tried to find people who had that drive and that chutzpah and that motivation and that unique approach to musical theater that Jonathan Larson had. And I think Jonathan Larson's charisma and his motivation is so, like, the musical theater actors of today need some of that. He worked his butt off until he couldn't anymore. And he is such an inspiration to so many. And I'm sure this is going to be iconic. Girl, I am excited for this show. I'll be there. Jonathan Larson Project, I'll eat it with a spoon. Like, I love anything I can get Jonathan Larson. To me, he's one of the greatest inspirations. People say, right? There's the classic thing where people say, if you could talk to anybody, dead or alive, at a dinner table, who would it be? I always say Jonathan Larson, because I just want to say, you have no idea the heights that you have reached. You have no idea the amount of people that you have touched. He is so iconic, and he doesn't even know, and he wasn't here to see the success that he reached. And for somebody who worked so hard day in and day out for that success, it breaks my heart and shatters it into a million pieces. But his legacy lives on even today in 2025. I think he passed in 1996, if I'm not mistaken, around there, like mid-90s. And so even 30 years after that, there's a new show coming called The Jonathan Larson Project. Just think of how happy that would make him, you know? Anyways, guys, that is our episode of From the Mezzanine. Thank you so much for joining me this week. I'll be recording my Meet Me at the Stage Door right after this for the Broadway Besties over on the Patreon. It is never too late to join the Patreon. The link is in the show notes below. Please leave me a rate and review wherever you're listening right now. It does such amazing things for the pod, and I love you for it. And I think that's all I have to report. Follow me on Instagram and TikTok at @FromTheMezzanine_podcast if TikTok is still alive at this time. Please, TikTok, don't die on us. Please, please, please. Anyways, thank y'all so much for watching, and I'll see you next time. Bye!